Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion. Please binding by AFTERBIRTH Plus. I'm feeling great. What can you say when you're 30 wins deep? What you can say is, oh, let me adjust my ergonomic chair temporarily. Okay. Look at these. Great stats, 2K, 4J, FD, BP. The only thing you could conceivably complain about on this run is having Plan C as a spacebar item. What does that mean for me? It means I hope this guy drops Anarchist Cookbook. Okay, that's fine. I hope that we get a spacebar item. Because there is, at this point with these stats, I don't want to, take all the wind out of your sails with respect to any tension on this episode, if you're still watching for, potentially seeing me lose. But, the most likely way to lose is we get one of those floors that the room you go to baits you, and it's not actually the room you were supposed to go to. And then we press the spacebar, kill ourselves, and then do it again somehow, thanks to having 1-up. I'm super stoked we have the 1-up. Like, that... It's so unlikely to matter with respect to Plan C, but why you'd rather have it than not have it. We'd rather have it than a lot of other, like, completely meaningless items as well. Anyway. So far, so very, very good. Even 12 money, which is not the way that real human beings describe money, but, 12 pennies? That's a great setup, dude. It's not enough money to necessarily be doing super well on this floor when it comes to the fiduciary avenues, i.e. the shop, but we can get a blood bank on the next floor, transition that into maybe getting an IV bag. Yo, that's incredible. Use the IV bag to get rid of Plan C, and all of a sudden we're off to the freaking races. So will I get experimental treatment? Yes. Should I get experimental treatment? The answer, I would say, is still probably yes, even though it took off 1.5 damage. Speed up, tears up, luck up. I wanted to buy a spirit heart. You've broken my heart. You know what? Let's bet on getting an arcade, and then piggy bank will pay for itself very, very quickly. So yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't a lights out experimental treatment. It did cost us an HP now that I think about it as well, but I don't really feel like our HP means that much with this 1-up burning a hole in my pocket. This is what I was worried about, to be honest, and thankfully my lightning quick old man reflexes allowed me to dodge shots and then immediately just get hit for reasons. So, might have compromised our deal with the devil in order to pick up experimental treatment as well. And now you're getting into the nitty-gritty where maybe the juice ain't worth the squeeze there, but life goes on. It happens from time to time. It's my fault. It's not my fault for making a bad decision with experimental treatment. It's my fault for literally standing there and getting mind flooded by a single fly. You know what song I was thinking of? There's all these songs that are like whispers of a memory in my head, because they used to get played on the radio all the time. And they didn't, they were good enough to get played on the radio in the year 2000, but not good enough to make it into the classic pop or rock pantheon for 2019. We're like 20 years on. There's a one that goes, with my naked eye I saw the falling rain pouring down on me. You know that one? With my naked eye I saw what set it off. I don't know what it says there, but it's one of those songs. I swear, we listen to the radio on the school bus every day. And I had, like a 45-minute drive to and from school on that bus for 13, 14 years of my life, right? I swear that for about 6 years I heard that song 3 or 4 times a week, and now I haven't heard it in decades. Whatever happened to band that made that song? I always liked them. Whatever happened to them? They were doing great work. Dude, I didn't even see this. So I'm pretty sure this is a library, and it is indeed. Pause button is really good. I will come back for you, pause button, I promise, if we are able And I'm not going to open that golden chest, I think. I know there's a shop available as well. I just want to see if maybe we have an arcade. I will come back for pause button if we fight Famine and get a cube of meat, or if maybe we get Sack Dagger or something like that from a deal with the devil. Although it would be merciful to get a deal with the devil in the first place at this point. All these songs, you know, they're like Tears in Rain, you know, they've disappeared. You got to think about that. Like, I don't know, dude. I am hesitant always to go down this road of being like, yeah, you know, wonder if any songs from this day and age will make it onto the radio in 2039. It's probably not fair, you know. There's probably classics that I'm not aware of because, well, of multiple reasons. One reason being I don't listen to the top 40 radio that much. The other reason being, even if I heard a jam, I would probably be like, you know, kids these days, you know? Like, I'm trying to think of songs that, you know, from like the last 5 or 6 years that I think are genuine classics. I'll tell you, by the way, I think my contemporaneous radio music generation sucked, and I go to bat for the younger generation in this sense. So I think we will stick with what we got and move on. If you're like my age and you're like, the radio sucks these days, dude, do you know what we grew up with? Go back and turn on Canadian rock radio. For like 10 years, it was literally just Nickelback and then bands produced by Nickelback, like Theory of a Dead Man. And then we briefly got out of it with mainstream Christian rock bands. Really good to hear your voice, one of those things that sound so sweet. Everybody sounded like that for like a decade when I was growing up. And I was like, you know, Nirvana's good, but they inspired a lot of bands that are clearly better. So I don't know if it's better or worse in today's day and age, but I will say, whenever I listen to top 40 radio, oftentimes I am like, this song's pretty bad. But it's always been bad, I guess, is the compromise I'm willing to make. I'm not saying, you know, well, popular music is always... I mean, there's some stuff like, you know what songs, you know, they'll probably still... They'll make it to, you know, the 2010s night by the time we get to, you know, 2030s. It'll be like, you know, The Weeknd's I Can't Feel My Face. I could see that, or, you know, Get Lucky by Daft Punk. Those songs are gonna... They'll survive a little, for sure. We could take Lil Brim here, but I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. If we get HP, we will probably take Little Brim, especially if we only get 1 HP. You know what? I guess we could actually just use our Strength card to do it, which we should have done earlier, but we used our Joker card to get into the deal with the devil, so we didn't have control over that smart guy. Nah. Like it. And there's probably more. Like, I don't know, Lord, here's the thing. It's like the kiss of death if you get parodied on South Park. Because for the rest of your life, anytime you get mentioned, people just make a funny voice. Lord. But, you know, I'm literally familiar with 0% of her remaining oeuvre. But Royals, that's a classic song. That's a modern classic, I say. Is it my type of music? No. But, you know, it's like the same as Adele, you know? Like, there's never been a time where I'm like, oh, you know what I want to listen to willingly? Adele, she's got a great voice. But at the same time, when it comes on the radio, I'm like, man, this lady's got a great voice. I can't deny that. Now, at home, you know, rather listen to a little bit of Boards of Canada. We'll do a little Boards of Canada sing-along. You get the idea. That's the joke. I've used it too many times recently. But then you go, orange. What's your favorite Boards of Canada lyric? Mine is the one where the kid goes, yeah, that's right. Just, you know, pour one out for the songs you heard all the time back in the day, but you never hear now. Like, for example, you know what artist is guilty of that? Well, not guilty, but, you know, a victim of that? Christina Milian. Remember Christina Milian? Dip it low, pick it up slow. I forget the rest of the lyrics, but, you know, she was dipping it low. In the music video, specifically. Now, I haven't heard anybody talk about Christina Milian unless they're singing Celebration by Kanye West. Which, you know, has got a 2005-esque lyric in it I don't want to repeat, but you get the idea. Lost like sands in time. Like, you know, another one? I don't know if maybe she's made it back now, but Ciara. She had an absolute slapper. I mean, she had 1-2 Step, which everybody was, you know, that song has got a good beat to it, and moreover, it tells you how to dance to it. And that's a huge advantage in popular music. If a song tells you how to dance to it, you know, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, you know, that's when you got a real chance at mass media superstardom with those. But she had an absolute slapper with Ludacris called O that I haven't heard on the radio. The only time I hear it is on my own, you know, 2005 playlist. It goes Hate It or Love It by The Game featuring 50 Cent, straight into O, and then the entirety of American Idiot by Green Day, followed by a whole Mitch Hedberg album. That's my time capsule. Anyway, go listen to O by Ciara. You don't need to listen to like Christina Milian's discography. I'm not going to say nothing of value was lost, but little of value was removed. Is that it? Doesn't really change the functionality of the sentence. Anyway, okay, please jump here and then get blown up. Dude, my head is like a D100. My hair, I should say, is like a D100 right now. It's got me excited. So we're going to get a 100% chance for a deal with the devil, which means Little Brim, because we're going to use strength to pick it up now that we have the opportunity to do so. And I wouldn't necessarily call this run a genuine slapper right off the bat, but it's starting to get there. I actually, now that I think about it, I appreciate the luck upgrade, but I probably should have used Black Rune on Dad's Key, or Dad's Lost Coin, I mean to say. But this run is now at the level where I would expect it to kind of snowball out of control, if that's being honest. I'm interested to know that we talked about it on the NLSS, but here's the thing. The NLSS is very demographically uniform, you know? It's typically 3 to 6 dudes, all between the ages of 25 and 35, who live in North America. I hate to say it, but you know, if you want to own me, that's the honest to goodness truth. So our opinions about media tend to be pretty similar. The only time we disagree is when we're talking about Game of Thrones. Yo, that episode slapped. That episode did not slap. That episode was a modest slapper. I think it could slap in hindsight once we see how the final 3 episodes go. Yo, but if it's gonna slap like that, there has to be some coherency to the slapping. Oh, you're just, you're a curmudgeon. And you get the idea. That's our big disagreement. Otherwise, we're like, hey, do you like intellectual rap music? Me too. How do you feel about Greta Van Fleet? They sound just like Led Zeppelin. I know, isn't it awesome? I'm roasting us too hard. I've actually roasted myself, so I mean, I don't like Greta Van Fleet because I don't like cover bands, but just in general, like, I'm roasting myself so hard I actually did myself offense. Bone Tears. Now, I'm interested to hear, though. What are your perspectives? Especially, like, if you listen to a lot of modern radio, or if you're, you know, of the age you're in high school, early college, for example. By the way, if you're like, oh, he's excluded me from this one, welcome to getting older, people. Stop caring what you got to say, unfortunately. Pretty soon it's seniors discounts at the grocery store and trying to pay for half a bunch of bananas with a check. And I can't wait. Because, you know, again, I hear stuff on the radio and I'm like, I get it, you can't hear, you can't feel your face. Hey, you dropped something, and then I pick up the letter E that The Weeknd forgot from his name. Owned, by the way. Interested to know what people this generation think is like a classic that's gonna make it to the radio. Cause you know, like when I was in high school, I was a snob, to be fair. But what did people think was gonna make it to, you know, it was gonna be on the radio in 20 years? I think we would have been pretty close. And I mean that not to flatter, you know, myself and my generation. But you know, Kanye West 2005 era stuff, yeah, it survived. She Take My Money, etc., etc. Arcade Fire. This is the landmark back in 04, 05. I remember a classmate of mine she was a huge U2 fan, but she didn't like their old stuff. It was a little weird. She was really into My Place Called Vertigo. So she went and saw them in Ottawa. She was like, this weird band opened for them. They're called the Arcade Fire. I didn't really know what was up with them. And that's where I was like, these guys are going somewhere. Opening for U2 at the Corel Center? Things are looking up. This is before Where the Wild Things Are. So Restock is very interesting. Thank you. I really appreciate you paying out there. It's very helpful for me. I think this has been a very good floor. And then there's some other stuff, like, you know, people really like Hollaback Girl. And I think, to be fair, Hollaback Girl has kind of got, you know, it's like a C-tier radio song, but I wouldn't be surprised to turn on Top 40 radio and, you know, in between 25 Ed Sheeran songs, they're like, check it out, it's a blast from the past, for all you old folks out there. All the girls want to, you know, I think it's kind of made it. Not that I think it's a good song to begin with, but... well, not a great song to begin with. Alright, let's head down to the next floor. Was that really Caves 2, or was that... yeah, that was Caves 2, so we're way behind schedule for Boss Rush, but... not sweating it too hard. Don't blow up my judgment. You son of a gun. I was gonna play him. And we were gonna make progress there. People are way more astute about movies, I think, than music. Music changes more with the trends, I think. You know, there's movies that definitely, they have not aged well, I suppose. Even stuff like, I was watching The 40-Year-Old Virgin, I don't know, this is like 3 months ago. And there's scenes of that movie that I still think the movie is great and hilarious and actually heartfelt. There's scenes of that movie that would not play as well at the theater now as they did in 2004 or 2005. But anyway, disregarding that, I think people are more astute about movies. Like, when I saw Inception in theaters, I was like, people are going to be talking about this movie for a while. This is a movie it's pretty inventive and is going to... people are going to have, like, a lasting impression of this. But I also thought the same thing when I saw Bruno in theaters, a.k.a. the pseudo-sequel to Borat. So, it is possible that, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Boy, I can't wait to see what Sacha Baron Cohen gets up to next. Oh, dude, I kind of like this. What kind of over-exaggerated stereotype will he evoke next? Libyan dictator. I'm out. That being said, dude, okay, so Bruno is not great. Even though I kind of like it. Borat, as much as we make fun of it, Borat is really good, okay? If you weren't between 15 and 30 in 2006, you don't get to say whether or not Borat is good, alright? The movie is not made for you. It was made for us. I haven't been to the shop yet. Let's check it. It was a great year for cinema. That calendar year. Well, no, not canonical. Canonical? Calendar year. Because, I mean, it didn't come out this... What I was going to say is, if you were a young adult, there's a lot of stuff that was specifically your bag, baby. Like on... Why re-roll it? That's very true. On top of Borat, you also had 300 coming out in the same year. I know. It's like 19-year-old boy Christmas, basically. And it was. Except I was only 18. Until that November. Now. Got some, I mean, not just good stuff. We got some great stuff there. This run is essentially completely spoken for. Like, it's under control. We have a homing little brimstone, which is just about, like, the only time I would really feel compelled to choose this trinket over another decent trinket. Although I guess we swallowed our earlier one thanks to marbles. And then in here, sure, I'll definitely take 9 lives. It's not guaranteed to accomplish anything for us, but we do have 10 lives now. You know, you're not gonna like what I'm about to say. You know what medium has had the worst aging? As in terms of like, from, let's say, 2005 to 2015. You know? I really think it's video games, as much as I hate to say it. That's not to say there were not great video games that came out during that. But when I think back to like the late, you know, 2000s, the decade of the 2000s, not the century or the millennia. Millennium, I guess. I think of very gray and brown cover-based shooters that were $60 each. Like, it felt like every second game was like a first-person shooter that had, like, you can travel through time. It's a first-person shooter, but, you know, you're a dog. That's what when I think back, that's what I think of. It's more of like a 2005 to 2010 sort of ribbing, but... And of course, there's awesome stuff in there that, you know, you don't want to forget. First Dragon Age was in there. Mass Effects. Mirror's Edge. Assassin's Creed, you know, being extremely fresh and new as well. It's good stuff. But when I think of like mass marketed, well, not that those are not huge franchises, but you know what I mean. When I think of like, you know, instead of just taking it down to like one release every 2 or 3 years, when I think about like the games that were coming out, like in March, it's Singularity and Brink. You know, that's where start to get a little bit like, that's right. That period wasn't all wine and roses, you know? That and everybody capitalizing on the success of the Wii by trying to shove motion controls into their game. What if we made Dragon's Lair, but with Kinect controls? Well, then your bad game would be even worse. I don't want to be rude to Dragon's Lair. Look, I wasn't alive when Dragon's Lair originally came out, but I definitely played it on CD-ROM. And even then, like, you know, I was probably 10 or 12 years after it came out. You marveled at the graphics. You know, you were like, this is an incredible feat of technology. But the gameplay is just QuickTime events without the prompts on the screen. There's always... For a period of time, whenever I insulted Dragon's Lair, there'd always be a couple of people that were like, hey man, lay off of Dragon's Lair. Look, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but here's my opinion, and it's not just about Dragon's Lair. It's about a lot of like the, you know, Golden Age arcade games. I think a lot of them are really, really bad, taken out of their contemporary time. And I hate to say it, okay? There's a couple, you know, Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. I'll give you a pass on those. I think those are still great games to this day. Asteroids. I think Asteroids is a fun game. But then like Joust, Centipede, Defender, Galaga. Missile Command, you know, I am 50-50 on. Just a lot of them, you know. That sort of thing isn't my bag, baby. I mean, they don't even have any cutscenes, and Ronda Rousey doesn't voice any characters. I mean, I don't think it's that controversial of an opinion, to be honest. And it probably depends on when you grew up as well. Because for me, the golden age is the Super Nintendo era, and maybe like early 3D era. That's not to say games were at their peak then, but that's like where I think back and I'm like, those are simple games for the most part, but they're also like super classics. Whereas when I play like Defender or something like that, I'm like, you know what, actually, to be fair, you know what arcade game I can get down with? Root Beer Tapper, also called Tapper, depending on whether you played it in an all-ages arcade or not. Tapper is okay in my book, but For me, it's like those games from the early 90s, mid 90s are like where I start to be like, okay, I'm playing this for a reason other than it's a historical artifact. Like my parents, whenever I talk about video games, they always talk to me about Pitfall. They're like, man, I remember when Pitfall came out, it was like the most advanced game on the market. And I was like, I get it, you're old. That's my joke, by the way. I took it from you, Grandpa. Yeah, why not? I don't call my parents old. My parents they're very young by old people standards. I mean, they've got a 30-year-old son, and they're in their mid-50s. I was going to say they're mid-1950s. That would have been a better joke, despite not being coherent at all. Anyway. Was. That's just my 2 cents. I'm not, if you're watching this, you're Roy Schilt, Missile Command champion. I'm not trying to rain on your parade, Enjoy Missile Command. There's always, and I noticed it, like, I don't really want to get into it too much because people snooze fest Game of Thrones, and I'm starting to agree, snooze fest Game of Thrones, but, I tweeted after, I watched the Game of Thrones episode last night. I was pretty hyped for it, and I thought the episode sucked. So I tweeted, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but I think the episode kind of sucked. And then people who follow me, but maybe think that I'm too dumb to put the connection together. This is not people involved in the NLSS, by the way. But they tweeted like, I don't understand all the hot takes about the Game of Thrones episodes. What happened to just letting people enjoy things? And we're now at the point where, apparently for some people, if you're like, hey, that thing you like, civilly, I didn't like it. I don't understand why society's got to be so negative at all the times. Why can't we just like everything without ever having a discerning eye? That's where we're at now. So I subtweet them, and I say, why can't we just let people not like things? And then somebody jumps in and goes, why can't we just let people not have an opinion on things? And you get the idea. Why can't we just let people like things? It's not getting to me. It's just I found it annoying last night. It's like that if you ain't got anything nice to say, don't say it at all mentality, but applied to like a, multi-million-dollar television program that's the most successful thing on the show and is letting me down. Not to be rude. I'm still going to keep watching it. At this point, I hate myself and it too much to quit. Here's my thoughts on Game of Thrones, and, it's going to be like 3 sentences, I promise. My thoughts on Game of Thrones is, over the last 2 seasons, there have been good moments, and I think there's been real face-palming moments, but I have stopped having any confidence that Game of Thrones is going to finish its run as a great television program. In retrospect, the whole series might still be great, but I've recognized now within myself that I have no confidence that it's going to end strongly. And that's actually okay. Because I have full confidence the show is going to be okay when it ends. Has it, quote-unquote, jumped the shark? I think so, for sure. I think there's a noticeable dip in episode coherence. But I do believe that I have all the full confidence they're going to... At least they're not doing 20 seasons after it is clearly time for it to end, if that makes sense. Those are my thoughts on it. And if you love the show, more power to you. I love most of like the first 5 or 6 seasons, and I'm liking more than I'm disliking still. And we can agree to disagree there and still be like, we can still be civil with one another. It's media, dude. It's not like I'm telling you I don't like, blueberries, the world's most universally beloved food, which I also love, because who doesn't like antioxidants and phytonutrients? But yeah, why can't we just let people like things? Look, if somebody, and I understand, because I talk about Marvel stuff that nobody else cares about on the NLSS now and then people pop in and they just go like, Marvel, lol. Sorry, I'm too busy coming back from the Yorgos Lanthimos Film Festival. That's like, oh, why can't we let people just like things? But if you're like, I didn't like Endgame as much as most people, hey, we're still cool. Nah, get out. Like, your civil disagreement with me has compromised my enjoyment of a Disney property As a result, you need to go. This run is very good, but also, I don't want to say, like, I'm not trying to look a gift horse in the mouth here. Can I just also call it a little weird? Because, like, it feels like it should be much stronger than it is. That doesn't really help, to be honest. And that's not a complaint. It just feels like, you know, maybe missing that first deal with the devil, you know, had us miss the key for what was gonna, you know, bring the whole thing together. It's still, like, it's unlosable, and that's where you want to be here. And, you know, Sad Bombs, you know what? Sad Bombs, Explosivo, cool combo. Sorry I insulted you earlier. I see the secret room there. Explosivo. Now, you said you see the secret room, and yet you didn't go back. Well, that's because I already programmed into my cerebral cortex that we're going to go up. Nah. You got to, you know, interrupt. Put something new in there. I already had my hand was preloading the tendons and the actin myosin filaments that had to fire in order to get me to move in this direction. All right, again, easy win, and, you know, the only tension on the run was really when we hit the start run button to see what we would actually have at our disposal. I literally walked straight into the enemy. I have no idea. I think my brain thought that I was gonna hit space, but then something got in the way. It's alright. Easy wins. Fun runs. Not nearly good enough to even consider doing Delirium if that chooses to show up, which it didn't. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Also, a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!